Ralph Lauren collectors know this truth all too well. Once the obsession starts, it never really ends, it just evolves into a full-blown lifelong hunt for the next legendary piece.
And this is the part most people miss. For some collectors, it's not about having the biggest wardrobe, but about tracking down the rarest, most meaningful stories ever sewn into a label. A lifelong Ralph Lauren collector reveals his 7 most treasured pieces. Laird Mackintosh has turned his lifelong passion for Ralph Lauren into a destination-worthy showroom, Thoroughbred New York, nestled in New York's Hudson Valley. He doesn't just sell rare and highly sought-after Ralph Lauren pieces, he lives with them, studies them, and occasionally admits there are a few he simply cannot let go of. Located on the second floor of a century-old building in Kingston, New York, Thoroughbred New York is not the kind of place you just stumble upon while running errands. It attracts a very specific type of visitor, the dedicated Ralph Lauren devotee who knows exactly what they're looking for or is ready to be completely blown away. As Mackintosh likes to suggest, people who walk through his door usually already understand what they're about to experience. When he shops vintage elsewhere, he feels lucky to uncover a single great tweed jacket or maybe a special sweater. But in his showroom, serious Ralph Lauren fans often feel overwhelmed in the best way possible, because every rack, shelf, and rail is filled exclusively with Ralph Lauren. Mackintosh's personal Ralph Lauren journey began back in the mid-1980s, when he worked at a polo store in his hometown of Calgary, Alberta. That early retail job didn't just pay the bills, it ignited an obsession. Decades later, after countless navy blazers and endless hours studying Ralph Lauren's designs, he has become one of the leading authorities on the brand's history and aesthetic. His personal archive spans everything from Western-inspired pieces to tartan travel gear and even an incredibly rare bottle of polo fragrance from the 1970s. Today, Thoroughbred New York is believed to be the only showroom of its kind outside Japan, where vintage Ralph Lauren collecting has an especially intense following. For designers hunting for inspiration, the space is a living reference library, packed with details, fabrics, and silhouettes from different eras of Ralph's world-building approach to fashion. For fellow collectors, it's more like a pilgrimage site, somewhere you go not just to buy, but to connect with the mythology and nostalgia behind each garment. But here's where it gets controversial. At what point does a store like this stop being a shop and start becoming a museum that just happens to have a price list? To offer a glimpse into the magic hidden on those racks, Mackintosh selected 7 pieces that represent the heart of his collection, items that, for now at least, are staying firmly in his possession.
Polo Ralph Lauren Tweed Suit, 1982. One of Mackintosh's most thrilling discoveries is a heavy tweed suit from 1982, complete with a double-breasted derby waistcoat. He had admired this exact look for years in an old fall 1982 polo catalog, never expecting to see it in real life. Then, at an estate sale in Connecticut, the fantasy became reality. There it was, the very suit he had only known from a photograph. Even more astonishing, the same sale included another 3-piece tweed suit that was also featured in that same 1982 catalog. He managed to acquire both, effectively bringing a piece of Ralph Lauren print history into his physical collection. The original owner, whoever he was, clearly had impeccable taste. Mackintosh imagines him standing in a polo shop back in 1982, flipping through the catalog and casually deciding, "I'll take them both." It's a perfect example of how collecting vintage isn't just about the garment itself, but about reconstructing the life and style of the person who first wore it. Polo Ralph Lauren Shearling Overcoat, 1977.
Another beloved piece in Mackintosh's archive is a substantial shearling overcoat from 1977. At first, it was just a coat he admired and wore, but over time he realized something remarkable. It appears to be the very same coat worn in the iconic cowboy in the snow image from one of Ralph Lauren's earliest mailer campaigns. In 1977, Ralph Lauren began sending out mailers, essentially printed advertising booklets, directly to customers, showcasing styled looks and evocative imagery. One of the most memorable images from that era shows a cowboy in a tuxedo paired with a weathered hat and coat, leading his horse through the snow. That visual clash of polished evening wear and rugged Western gear became one of Ralph's early statements of high-low dressing, a concept that would become central to his brand language. The overcoat itself is serious outerwear, weighty, belted, and lined with a lush alpaca pile that makes it as practical as it is handsome. The fact that it also seems to be a piece of campaign history is what pushes it into the realm of legend.
Polo Ralph Lauren Polo Coat, 1990s, with tasseled silk scarf, 1984. Few garments are as closely linked to Ralph Lauren's style universe as the classic polo coat. Often described as one of the single most important pieces in his entire body of work, this double-breasted overcoat usually features peak lapels, turned-back cuffs, and a half belt at the back. Traditionally rendered in camel hair, it can also appear in tweed or cashmere, but the essential attitude remains the same: relaxed elegance with a nod to old-world menswear. Mackintosh has accumulated several polo coats over the years, but there is one from the 1990s that stands out as a true white whale in Ralph Lauren collecting circles. Instead of a plain camel surface, this coat is woven in a subtle herringbone pattern, adding texture and depth to the familiar silhouette. He knew this variant existed from images and stories, yet still felt shock and disbelief when he finally tracked one down in person. Paired with the coat is another treasure, a tasseled silk scarf from the fall 1984 Thoroughbred campaign. The scarf, with its luxurious drape and classic styling, ties directly back to the equestrian, aristocratic mood that Ralph often explored in that era. And this is the part most people miss: accessories like a scarf can carry just as much storytelling weight as the coat they accompany. Polo Ralph Lauren Tweed Jacket, 1970s. Among collectors, few garments inspire more reverence than the 1970s Polo Ralph Lauren herringbone tweed jacket that Mackintosh owns. This design, featuring bellows pockets, a button throat latch, and suede elbow patches, drew heavily from traditional British hunting jackets. It was one of Ralph Lauren's early, defining jacket shapes, something that felt both historically rooted and freshly romantic. A modern interpretation of this design lives on today as the RL67 jacket, which keeps the spirit of the original alive while updating details for current customers. Mackintosh, however, is always on the lookout for vintage versions that match that first iconic model as closely as possible. The piece in his collection, which mirrors the original design, is often considered a holy grail item among polo enthusiasts. With over 5 decades behind it, the jacket still feels remarkably current in its cut and fabric, which says a lot about Ralph Lauren's ability to design clothing that transcends trends. Mackintosh still wears it for special occasions, treating it not as a museum relic, but as a living part of his wardrobe. Polo Ralph Lauren Buzzy Curbox Blazer, 1980. The blazer that Mackintosh calls the Buzzy Curbox blazer holds a special place in his story and in Ralph Lauren history. Named in tribute to surfer and polo model Buzzy Curbox, the blazer is noteworthy because it features the first bullion crest Ralph Lauren ever created for polo. That crest, a richly embroidered emblem, would go on to become one of the brand's most recognizable symbols. Mackintosh first encountered the crest while working at a polo store in the early 1980s, where he bought it as a separate piece around 1983 or 1984. Over more than 40 years, he has carefully attached it to various navy polo blazers, upgrading the host jacket while keeping the crest as a constant. Today, it adorns a heavy doeskin polo blazer from around 1980, distinguished by its thick welt seams and period-correct construction. Back when he worked at the store, there was a framed Bruce Weber photograph on the wall showing Buzzy Curbox wearing the blazer, and Mackintosh saw that image every day. Owning the real-life counterpart feels like closing a loop between teenage inspiration and adult collecting. But here's where it gets interesting: is the blazer valuable because of its craftsmanship, or because of the mythology we attach to that single photograph? Polo Ralph Lauren Hardshell Luggage, 1987. Not everything in Mackintosh's collection is clothing. Some of the most charming pieces are travel items, like a rare set of hardshell luggage in Stuart tartan from 1987. These suitcases and cases, covered in vibrant tartan, transform something as mundane as packing into an expression of style and status. Mackintosh acquired this set from the estate of a man with a serious resume in the entertainment and media world. According to what he learned, the previous owner had been a major record executive, possibly involved in signing prints, and later served as chairman of Martha Stewart's media company. After the man passed away, Mackintosh drove out to a grand, Gatsby-like home on Long Island to pick up the luggage. Some of the pieces still carried tags marked with the address of the Carlyle Hotel in New York City. Imagining those bags traveling from a Long Island estate to the Carlyle, rolling through hotel lobbies in their tartan glory, adds another layer of romance to the objects. And this is the part most people miss: for serious collectors, provenance, the story of where something has been, can be just as important as the item itself. Polo Cologne, 1978. Fragrance can be just as nostalgic as clothing, and for Mackintosh, the original Polo Cologne for men, launched in 1978, is proof.
It was the very first fragrance he ever bought, and he continues to wear it even now.